All right, we are live. Welcome everybody to the July 9th TAN Council meeting. Today we're going to go over again some TAN IP1 data analysis. We're going to talk about some application layer protocols and different developer stuff. And Ari's here to talk about some things he's working on. We'll have an open Q&A and then talk about any other additional items that's brought up. But first, let's go through the um, introduction. For today, these reoccurring meetings serve 5 critical functions. They provide transparency to our community, creating a structured forum for proposal discussions and enabling authors to present to the counseling community. They enable regular updates for the TAN ecosystem with consistent communication across council members and allow direct community engagement through question and answer sessions. The TAN Council is a local government organization within the Telcoin platform. Together, we serve as a provider and administrator of goods and services uh, within the jurisdictional domain of the Telcoin Application Network, or TAN. With our 6 members, we make decisions related to TAN improvements and policies through the TAN IP process. We need 5 out of 6 votes to approve proposals in a 120-hour voting period. Um, Primary duties are to allocate TAN issuance on TAN for stakers and developers to harvest, plan and finance the development of the the Telcoin application network, and with responsibilities including reviewing and voting on snapshot proposals, attending biweekly meetings, providing regular community updates, and monitoring systems while enforcing operational rules. Overall, the TAN Council has the authority over minor harvesting and planning and the planning and financing of the TAN infrastructure. Last meeting, so we'll go through that really quickly here. The last meeting we went through, there were some questions about how it was possible to track the V5 wallet adoption. We discussed how there's no reliable on-chain way to tell how many users have upgraded versus staying on the old wallet. We'd have to use app statistics, which are unreliable, where iOS app statistics aren't readily available. We also covered the testnet RPC access and shared that the public RPCs are available through the load balancing endpoints at rpc.telcoin.network and adiri.tel. Both are listed on chainlist.org, and the direct node RPC exists, but the load balancers are the way to go to look at those items. We talked about the potential expense of with major RPC providers like Alchemy and Tatum integrations. And then we got an update. Lastly, we got an update on TAN-IP2. There was a question from the community there, and we reiterated that it hasn't been fully built yet as it was deprioritized so the team could focus on main network and on-chain DeFi primitives. It is on backlog, and we plan to get that picked up later. So with that said, let me switch over here, and we will go through some of the TAN data. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. So just a little precursor here. This is posted in the Discord for anybody to take a look at. These are the results through the last 2 epochs, which were periods 38 and 39 overall.
We lost it, I think.
Oh, did you? I'm sorry. Hold on.
Can't you see?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just need to reshare that again.
There we go.
Nice.
How's that?
Yep.
No problem. My bad. So yeah, periods 38 and 39, which the start dates of that was 6/24 and 7/1. As we discussed, that was in the middle of the V4 wallet update, which is pretty evident looking at some of the data here. We can see that active wallets dropped from 103 to 71. There were no new active wallets made. The trading volume overall dropped by about half to 130. And when we compare these two highlighted, anyways, my two highlighted one sells to everything above. It's obvious that the volume is there's a dip here. primarily my hypothesis is that's from all the upgrades and access and people working through that. But we will see kind of what the next few weeks shake out with that. But we did see issuance rewards drop from 3%, almost 5% down to 7 to 5% down to 3%, and then down to under a percent, meaning that the usage beginning in July, that first week of July, is really, really low from that standpoint. Our overall balance of unused TEL is around 40 million right now, and we are still seeing the same amount of unique wallet count at about 143 over the last 2 weeks. Going a little bit further into the fee total types, it was dominated a lot by the referee fees and not the staker fees. There is, you can see kind of that shift with the fee dominance moving right there as well. The rewards distribution again is still, the amount of unclaimed is much higher than the claims. So we are seeing kind of that peak and valley, and we'll need to see what happens as we move further away from upgrades here. Here are the weekly wallet counts, which again, we're staying relatively within the same amount of weekly active wallets. I expect this to probably to go up a little bit more next week, but we're matching kind of around week 9. And then the new wallets are pretty low here as well. So yeah, that's the summary. One other thing I wanted to point out, if I can find it, give me just a second here, was the amount of staked TEL. Let me pull that up. And share this screen. Okay. Wanted to bring this just as a point of reference because the item, it looks a little doom and gloomish until you start looking at kind of the bigger picture of what actually is happening with the decrease in volume. What we're seeing, if we look at a 90-day count, here the total amount of staked TEL is up to 4.42 billion, and that's based on the contract address. We did see a significant bump on June 3rd, and then that's steadily kind of gone up. It peaked at 4.46, down to 4.42 right now. I believe when I looked back at the previous voting period, I think we peaked around voting time around just over 4 billion. So this is, I think, the most TEL we've ever had staked, increase of about 600 million TEL in the last 60 days or 90 days. And a balance of about, that's 15.5% increase. So that's I think an important stat that I wanted to bring up as well, because I was curious when I saw some of this data of what that means. So I think what it shows is that we're seeing more people just staking and not doing anything with their TEL in the wallet versus necessarily trading is kind of the takeaway there. So I will, with that, open it up for any comments.
Do you have, what's the largest date span you can go to on that stake TEL diagram?
Year to date, and I just realized that the data wasn't showing on the stream, so I apologize for that.
Okay.
So, but here I will pull that back up here in a second. But yeah, you can go. It's when I started pulling it, so that I think I started the RPCs around right in the middle of January. So this, you can see that February, the start of February is really where I go from. It's around around that. Oh, that's total TEL balance. I apologize. So right around 3.89, 3.84, up to about 4.46. So some good results there overall. Obviously, we're at 3.84 and then saw almost a 500 million TEL staked in a single day, which like I said, I confirmed over and over again that is correct.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I think what we're seeing is that there's stagnant activity. Go back and share my other screen for the stream here. We're seeing some stagnant activity based on nothing more than people just they're not swapping, they're holding and staking. So it's kind of my analysis there.
It's not a bad problem to have.
No, I think the biggest thing that we have to really look at is obviously this 40 billion becomes higher and higher, right? And that's
Mm.
it's budgetary number stuff, but something to consider when we start looking at TAN IP2 and how this evolves as we move into mainnet.
Yeah, I think also when you start really hooking this up to the banking rails on the USD side and then kind of one other side as well, probably, and you can start getting organic activity through remittances, I think would be a big unlock. And then
Mm-hmm.
we'll likely see more trades in app, which will have an interesting impact on the numbers. That's my thinking.
Yeah. Again, the other thing is too is this is just on Polygon, right? There's no cross chain right now, so I think that does have an impact also.
Mm-hmm.
So, I saw one comment in the chat about third-party KYC. Again, just so we're clear, this is the Telcoin Association TAN call. It has nothing to do with the wallet itself. That is a Telcoin Holdings product, so it's not asking about why we're using the KYC we don't have any of that information. That's something for, if you have those questions, you can take them to telco.in to their help desk if you have questions there. But yeah, that's kind of the analysis I saw with, again, this is posted in the association Discord. Feel free to take a look, ask questions. I believe Steve was on there asking a few questions as well. Right now this is more of a, as discussed, is more of a fee rebate program than it is necessarily a referral program. So we'll look at kind of what that looks like for the next iteration, like Leo said. So any other questions?
I think it might be good, Derek, just from that last question that we had about KYC, just making that differentiation that, the network itself is a pure, blockchain tier 1 network. The KYC is dependent upon whatever app, builds on the network, but it's not a requirement. It's a requirement to be involved in the rewards process as an application developer, but not a requirement to build stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's a very important distinction. KYC is based on, again, know your customer. What is it? What's the acronym? Yeah, know your customer, right? Is based on anti-money laundering laws mostly, and some other things as well. Obviously, it's a protections thing for these companies providing services, which is a layer. The companies, like Arya said, is a layer on the Telcoin network. We obviously steward that layer from a rewards perspective and everything else. But thanks for that distinction, Ari. It's important.
And yeah, anyone can come and deploy contracts on Telcoin network once it's live, but that alone won't mean you can earn Tel issuance through the Telcoin application network. You have to jump through a few more hoops in order to do so. One of those is demonstrating KYC AML procedures. So those are all on the telcoin.org site and the docs. But yeah, you can deploy whatever you like. It's an open chain, but you have to meet certain criteria to be able to earn issuance as an application developer. But yeah, good point, Ari. Thank you.
It'd probably be good for us to do a post or a Medium article on that specifically at some point here coming up about that program.
Yeah, agreed.
Awesome. If there's any other questions in the chat, please ask about the TAN IP1 program. You can review that its current iteration on the telcoin.org forums. And as always, if you have a suggestion of an improvement or something you think would be beneficial, please feel free to engage. put a proposal out, anything like that, we welcome that for sure. Okay, moving on, we are going to talk a little bit about the application layer, future development scope and ideas, and kind of just open the floor for conceptually what some of the things that are being built or being planned potentially, and some of the things we see as use cases. And Ari is here to kind of talk through his own plans, and I'll kind of turn it over to him just as from a demo perspective and kind of his this is a kind of a use case, I guess you would say, and a good explanation or example, I guess. So Ari, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think we thought it would be fun if we just went and kind of shared some of the stuff that's actually being built on the network. So I took a deck that we're using currently, took out some slides to make it more general, some proprietary stuff out of there. So this is for the company that I've started up called Opra, which basically it's developer infrastructure type of tools and such. You may have seen it on the Blockchain Explorer. So we're just going to go over some of the stuff that we're doing in regards to Telcoin and the Testnet network right now, and hopefully getting that all fired up to get ready to go to mainnet when that's deployed. So there's two different areas that I have here. I usually go over with people testnet development, which is on the Telcoin network itself, trying to get back to the open source idea of the network and everything. And then there's independent development, which is basically what the company itself is doing. So if we look at testnet development, we're trying to do enhancements to the network, things that are needed by not just us but other developers as well. So we've worked quite a bit on the idea of these execution extensions, or EXEX is basically what they're called. And this is kind of like extending the nodes so that you can have observer nodes that you can basically hook in, kind of like these modular pieces of code to have it execute in the nodes pipeline. So it's kind of like a direct access to the chain without having to go through either RPC or going through calling out directly to database indexer or anything like that. And you can kind of do a lot of cool things with it. And this slide kind of shows kind of like how that kind of works, is that basically, we have the node with all the chain events that go on, and you get into an execution pipeline where the transactions are actually processed and everything, and those kind of bing an area in code that if you have EXE hooked in, it'll go and see who is subscribed to it and who's not subscribed to it, and it'll kind of ping that with the information that's coming through the pipeline. And then as a developer, you can do anything that you want with this. So this allows you to make custom observer nodes to do quite literally like anything that you would want to do. So, you could go and create, indexers or specialized observers, different types of API type of events off of it, just to utilize that data. And so that's been, I think they're still making a few adjustments to that. I saw Grant had kind of a merge in a couple days ago, but I think that's pretty much ready to go. The thing that currently working on, especially me this Friday, is working on snapshots for observers. So typically when you go and you spin up a node for the network, the first thing it's going to go and try to do is it's going to try to sync with all the other nodes that are out there to get itself up to date, right? You don't want stale data in the node. So it spends, quite a bit of time going and calling out to its different partners and stuff, and getting that data copied down and integrated into its local DB stack. And so the way to kind of like help that out and bootstrap it is that you can create the idea of a snapshot. So this is pretty much like what we use in the database world with my other company, is that you create basically a point in time copy of the data. You wrap that up. You put a hash on it, so that you can validate it that it's the packet that you're pulling down and stuff. You stick that somewhere on the web, and then you can create, as part of the process that you start up an observer node, to go and actually tell the CLI, okay, let me create my BLS keys. Let me go ahead and let me go ahead and like precede this baby with some data, right? And so it'll go and it'll pull down that data, unzip it, put it in the proper place, validate it, and then you can go ahead and do a node startup operation. So that kind of like puts you at the head of the line as far as trying to get your observer node up to current state, so that you can actually utilize it more effectively. And so now we're just going through the kind of rolling out, trying to test the process of going and shutting down the node, having it take the snapshot, creating us our package so that we can load up to the web storage to have it to where it's pulling down. And then the other side of it, which is to then start up a new node and tell it to pull down the download and make sure that that process with CLI goes and opens up and stuff. So hopefully we'll have a PR up for that here, hopefully pretty soon, hopefully within next week or so, to have that looked at. But that should go and kind of help out people that want to run observer nodes, but they don't want to sit there for a couple days waiting for data to sync up. And so all of these types of things all kind of like lead up to kind of like the premise is that you want developers to develop on the network, right? So the best thing about this blockchain is that it's basically greenfield, right? It's total greenfield. So if you're a developer looking, to get out there and create some apps, right? You could go and you could create apps on a very crowded system like Ethereum or Polygon, or you could go and start out on a new chain, right? So, and that gives you several advantages. And I mean, the network itself has several advantages to it. If you look in the specs about, how you have, kind of like this idea of instant finality and stuff, and you don't really have to worry a whole lot about, reorgs and stuff like that when you're dealing with the data coming in for the transactions. So this is basically based on the idea, the premise of what we like to call BaaS, right? My shop is that blockchain as a service, right? So it's actually providing, developers the tools that they need to go and, come onto the network and not have to build all the crap themselves, right? So first thing is working with observer nodes. So these are basically non-validating nodes, right? So they're kind of like read-only instances, but they also give you the ability to go and whisper stuff off to actual validation nodes and stuff. And a lot of times you'll need custom ones of these because you're using the custom observer nodes, which takes you back to the EXEX stuff, is that you're going to want your observer node to do something different than all the rest of them, right? So this idea here is that we're going and we're working through the processes of going and basically automating the spin up and deployment of observer nodes. So basically, click a button, click, 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 and you get an observer node created for you, a private one. That's advantageous just from the standpoint if you want something custom. Some people want their own observer node, so you're not fighting for bandwidth with other people. Gives you also access to private RPCs, right? So a lot of different advantages to that. So indexers. So basically creating a system whereby you're reading in the raw chain data, right, from the network. You're parsing those events and you're sticking them into a structured database schema, right? And that's then exposed to an outside API or querying tools. And we're looking at a couple, analytics tools that we could hook up to this stuff to kind of do analysis of on-chain data, or just having the data available for you to query. And this is also advantageous in the aspect that a lot of app developers don't want to rely on necessarily reading on-chain data from RPC calls, right? So it's much better if you have a structured database, which they're comfortable with, and some SDKs for them to utilize to talk to that system and get the data out that they want to do. So we're working on this actually this week. We've been working on it to try to get some of the stuff updated, and we're working on kind of like database schema and what do we do when we want to parse out different data, like how do we go and backtrack and backfill data from past events when we're parsing out something that's maybe a little different from what we did previously. And so this and the other one are actually used in the blockchain explorer that you see online. So it's actually using the blockchain explorer, which we have as open source code, and it's using like our proprietary version of an indexer that's based off of another system that was used in Ethereum, but we've modified it to fit into to Telcoin's structure, because there is a lot of difference between Ethereum and Telcoin. Even though it's kind of feels the same, it's very different. Developer API. So this is basically from the context of, you're a developer, you want to develop something on a blockchain. You just want to go and let me sign up, let me use an API to do the things that I want to do. Don't make me go out and figure out how to orchestrate this on chain, right? So that will typically go and get you a lot more apps on chain that are using the chain than what you would traditionally, because you kind of overcompensate for those high hurdles that developers face when they go and come on to the blockchain for the first time, is that they need to understand structure, and they need to understand contracts, and they need to understand all of these nuances of things that occur. This, you're kind of breaking it down as a simple API, right? And it kind of goes towards the idea that what we want to do is make the blockchain really like disappear for these developers, right? So it's just like, oh yeah, this actually runs on the Telcoin network, right? It's not that like it's totally embedded in the Telcoin network, and I've had to parse all these bytes and everything. It's just like I set it up, I run it. Users don't know. My developers shouldn't have to worry about that. They're calling API calls for the most part, unless they need to do something super duper custom, and then that just makes it easier all around. So we're doing some different things. So like wallet management type of things. We're looking at resurrecting some projects from the past, like the liquidity storm thing that we were doing, like pool analysis type of stuff on, and things like that. We're actually looking at like if we can deploy some what they typically call mud contracts, which are best way to describe it is database on chain, right? Which opens itself up to a lot of other applications. So currently looking at like timesheet applications, things like payment processing, which is what I'm heavily involved in. The typical transaction APIs to go and, send transactions, get status, access history, all that kind of stuff. Event subscriptions. So this is like an interesting thing that kind of ties in with the idea of indexers and also of these EXEX extensions of observers, is that, you can go and subscribe to kind of real-time chain events that are happening on chain and get pinged, or a service pinged when things like things happen, and that can be informational only, or it can actually be used to kick off processes and stuff, which is kind of an interesting aspect of it. So you can actually go and subscribe to an event, get a webhook that goes and the event pings, a webhook gets called, and a process starts off. So like with liquidity storm, it could be something as simple as like, hey, we find an imbalance within, two pools, and you have liquidity on one pool, and it would be more advantageous to move it to another pool, or in the aspect of the V4 stuff, maybe you have, a band set up, you fall out of range, but you have another band with liquidity in it that's in range, but you want to, kind of like move your money around to make it in range all the time. So that's kind of neat. Smart account API. So this is something that we're working on in the concept of account abstraction, and so that's kind of like where your typical blockchain, you have this idea of an externally owned account, right? And that's kind of like your traditional account on chain and everything. And to do anything, you've got to go out there, you've got to have gas, you've got to have your private key and everything, and there's no recovery mechanism for it, and there's limited stuff that you can do to it. And so Ethereum has this this standard that's an ERC 4337. That's kind of a development mumbo jumbo there, but it's about going and allowing you to create a smart account, all right? And that smart account goes and kind of ties in to your social logins, and also is kind of similar in some aspects to what I would call a modular account, where you can add on kind of like these little Lego blocks to it to make it do different things. And so you get kind of like this added benefit of being able to have some programmable logic around it. And you also kind of have this other idea of like having someone else pay for the gas on transactions. So it's really interesting concept in that you're kind of bringing the blockchain world of having like an account with tokens in it, something in it, right? NFTs, whatever you would want to have in it, and then being able to program against that and really it becomes more of a signing operation rather than like these traditional EOAs with their private keys. You're using your social login to go and swap out signing for different stuff to occur, and then it can go and lead to things like setting up subscription payments, which I love the idea of, because that's I'm heavily involved in payment processing systems and payment processing systems. We love to make it a repeatable process with as little human interaction as possible. So subscription processing is kind of like our holy grail from that aspect, is that we take a payment method once, and then we apply it over and over and over again and until you cancel it. It can also do just all kinds of different things with that custom programmability. You can do custom auth type of rules to allow other accounts and contracts and such to do things for you without kind of like giving away the store of things. So it just tends to make everything a lot easier. And that is it. So I think that's all I have. I will take questions. I'll stop sharing here. Nobody needs to see that.
Jeez, you've been busy. Good man.
Yeah, between that and that, and then I do other boring stuff like upgrade Angular JS frameworks up to current standard type of stuff. So that's been my last 3 weeks here. So
All in a day's work, huh?
yeah, this is much more interesting though.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome. I know the EXEX stuff I've been looking at also for rewards distribution notifications, for instance, for like TAN and Telex. Easy way to hook that into a front end dashboard and make it so people know right away when the rewards are issued, essentially.
Yeah, that can also play out like so in the account abstraction world, right? So those upgraded kind of, I don't want to call them wallets, but you could have stuff deposited into the wallet and have code around it that would go and do something when something's put into a wallet. So like you set up like an awards distribution account. You tag a little code onto there that runs as a module that says like, hey, anytime I have tokens of this type come into account, I need you to ping this other system here.
Yeah. I was looking at like outbound from specific like I mean there was a few. I was looking at like for instance, if the balance of a certain token like TEL on base, right, goes below a certain threshold, you could trigger a notification that more need, or just really just a PR or an approval that more needs to be sent from a transaction, or monitoring distribution safe, anything outgoing, is a distribution, right, of a certain threshold of tokens. So that's like a trigger event. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it. Then you get into like always in range liquidity and all that fun stuff. That's a whole nother interesting concept, different way to kind of skin that cat, I guess, than they're doing it currently with hooks.
Yeah, I think what you'll see kind of like grow in a bigger aspect is this idea of kind of like bringing Web 2 to Web 3, which is to say like you end up with these specialized accounts, right? That basically you can have someone else pay for the gas for it, right?
Right.
And so you're developing apps that around that premise, like, hey, we're going to pay for the gas, right, for doing X, and then you get whatever in return on your end for them using the app. That may be a subscription fee that they're paying you directly. It could be you get percentage of something that's done. but you're essentially paying for the gas, and then your user doesn't ever have to know about gas. They don't have to know about the blockchain. They don't have to know about any of that crap. All they see is some digits on their phone or on their screen that tell them that, hey, I've got like this much stuff in my account, right?
Yeah. I think there's some really interesting in that light integrations with point of sale systems too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. I think the main takeaway, from stuff like this, or why I'm showing stuff like this, is to show that other developers out there that there is real development going on against this network. There's some real ideas of things that are happening on the network, and it's not necessarily just like, hey, we have like one gaming developer and one other developer developing on a network. We want to have everybody brought to the game, right? So, and that's what I would like to see. Bring everybody in.
100%. No, it's really cool. Thank you for sharing. It's awesome.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you very much, Ari. Great to see.
Any questions here in the Google, our internal channel here, or any on the stream, in regards to any app development stuff or use case scenarios or comments? All right. Yeah, I think it will be doing some application developer spotlights is going to be in the near future from that standpoint. There'll be more and more of, obviously there's a lot going on under the hood there. So I'm glad Ari kind of peeled back some of those layers for people to see. And this isn't just an isolated case. There's many cases of this going on. So yeah, it'll be even more fun when we can start watching developers roll out their finished products. Let's see. That is it that we have for the agenda. Is there any other items we need to cover that I missed specifically that you can think of? Leo, I think we got everything, but
I think that's everything and more. Yeah.
perfect. Good deal. All right. Well, with that said, check the stream one more time. Not seeing anything there, but if just some comments on the account abstraction, which people think that's a great enhancement. So agreed there completely. Yeah. Again, if you are interested in learning more about developing on the Telcoin network, or working on a Deary testnet to just test some things that you're thinking of conceptualizing, similar to how Ari's company is working on things here, feel free to reach out to us at devs@telcoin.org, devs@telcoin.org. We'd be happy to at least put you in touch with the resources that you would need to kind of keep things moving in that direction, or get you some time with maybe a dev or whatever else to answer specific questions. So we love seeing more of these projects. I know Cody, who's not here today, demoed some stuff. Nick has demoed some stuff, and we'd love nothing more to get more people involved with that. So, all right. With that said, we will end it here. Thank you everybody for coming. We will meet again in 2 weeks' time, same place. And next week on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern, we have the Platform and Treasury Council meeting. So thanks everybody for coming. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, so.
Good night. Cheers.